Hello, everybody. I am one of your hosts, Scott, coming to you today from Denver, Colorado.
And I'm one of your other hosts. I'm Andy, coming to you from the United Kingdom again.
Indeed, Andy. Good to see you as always. Welcome, everybody, to the Tea and Timbits podcast, Global Perspectives on Business Development to help you prosper. We are continuing our October theme of content and branding strategies. Today, we're going to get into a little bit more of the routine and tactics of building that content plan, a bit of your branding plan, and sticking to it. Before we get into what that's going to be all about, and to give me enough time to think about what I'm going to say about it, Andy, do you have a story?
Yes, I do. It's a situation or a scenario that I experienced a few weeks back with a company that asked for a little bit of help and guidance because they had found themselves in a difficult situation where they were losing money. They were not making the sales. They were not converting things, not necessarily reaching their profitability goals. They weren't on track with anything in their business that they were trying to achieve. And they realized that obviously the biggest problem they had in the business was sales and the efficiency of sales and getting those new business in, getting the orders in. And one of the things that became very quickly apparent was that they had no structure. They had no plan. There was no sales culture in the business at all. It was very much a case that this business had grown and grown and grown and been very, very successful, but had found itself in a position where it was just existing and just churning. And that works for a period of time. But then when the market changes and you start to lose some of those key customers, or you start focusing on a segment that isn't part of your core segment, over time, that has an impact. But of course, because it isn't apparent straight away, the leadership were not aware of this and then got themselves in a lot of trouble. So following a few senior leadership changes, they asked for some help and guidance with regards to putting in helping to design a sales culture and a sales strategy for the business. And it became very obvious very quickly that nobody knew what they were doing.
Right.
So the salespeople on the ground were just trying to figure it out as they were going along every day. But every single opportunity in the CRM did not have a next action date. There was no clarity on whether they were talking to the right people.
Please don't
There
look at my
was
CRM.
no activity around any of the sales team at all. So they were just sort of floating and existing day to day. The sales managers were just managing through Excel files and just looking at numbers, looking at what's going on, but not actually doing anything about it, not coaching the sales team because they didn't really know what they were doing, because they were getting no leadership from their bosses as well, who were just challenging them. Why are you not making any sales? What's going on? What are we doing about it? And that was a daily issue. And they had daily reports, daily sales reports as well. And nobody did anything with them. Nobody was reflecting on them. No one knew what to do with them.
Right.
So it became a very, very big challenge and a big shift that needed to take place in this business. And so what needed to happen and what did happen is that we put in a very, I suppose, short, sharp shock, kind of shock and awe, as they say sometimes in the military, where we just go, right, this is how you're going to do things from now on. This is the structure. This is what's going to happen. And that, of course, put a lot of people in a very uncomfortable position. But very quickly, those who were passionate, especially in the sales team, who were just looking for that leadership, looking for that structure, looking for that guidance, they embraced it massively, jumped on it. And within a week, they were already engaged in a new structure, had dedicated time for prospecting, dedicated time for follow-ups, dedicated time for focusing on lapsed customers. And they were changing their mindset, changing the way that they were doing things very, very quickly. The leadership struggled a little bit, but what we implemented with them is trying to get them out of the Excel files and into the street, into spending time with the actual sales team out in the field, with each of their reps every week, and doing a bit of on-job coaching, focusing on a few key things in the CRM. Are you talking to the right people? Are you moving it along? How long has it been open? Is it lapsed? Is it worthwhile following up? Is it worth focusing time and effort on? And of course, it's still an ongoing process, but it certainly has, got to the point where certain people who are not relevant and not right in the company have become very apparent, and obviously either be replaced or will find alternative roles within the business. And those who are doing very well, they are getting all of the coaching and everything that they need in order to drive it forward. So it's a really exciting project to be involved with, and really exciting to see how many great people can come out of just a little bit of coaching and a little bit of structure in the business. And this is why it's so important to have a sales plan and have a culture of sales in the business, because without it, it's lost. And in these big companies, they don't always notice that straight away, but when they do notice, it has a big impact, and a big negative impact very quickly. So it's important to be there all the time, never lose sight of the sales, never lose sight of the importance of having that structure.
I think there's a lot of themes in there that tie to our topic today. So let me actually, I will make sure we come back and tie it into our theme for the month of content and branding. But I think that there's a lot of little details in that story that are, I want to come back to here for sort of the substance of the main part of the episode here. Let me just ask a clarifying question here first. Would you describe that company as small, medium, or large?
Large. They're a very large business.
They were a large company.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
They're the number one business in their field.
Okay. I've seen that very often in smaller companies that just kind of end up at a certain size or where they're at because they just were so used to working in the business that nobody showed up from boiling water. You get to a point and you just keep going brute force the way it was founded or has been operating ever since, and off you go. Obviously I've seen it in large businesses as well. I think it's a little less often, but different problems manifest in different ways. The first note I made as you were telling your story is about reports that don't get used. So in our theme of building a plan and sticking to it, even if it's a content plan, I think that having these, daily reports, and you're saying nobody is reflecting on them. I would suggest in that scenario, and in the scenario we've sort of got for the topic here, there's such a thing as too much information.
Yes.
And then there's also sort of directing it in the wrong place and thinking that you've got a system and that's all you need in order to solve a problem or get a process working for you. But I would hazard a guess that one, the frequency was way too high, and two, somebody built a report and thought that they were done and didn't go
that's right.
and didn't go, is this report giving us information that turns into something actionable? I've also seen the scenario where you start with a report, you've got some data on there. At some point, it is actionable, but then business evolves and some of the process gets ingrained, and the data points and the exercise of keeping the report up to date actually becomes unnecessary, somewhat rote, and it loses its impact and its meaning. Do you think any of that was what you were dealing with?
Oh, absolutely. I think that was a big part of the problem, is that the business knew they needed to have clarity on what they were doing each day, how much sales they were doing and so on. But because no one had a plan for each day,
right,
and then that information didn't mean anything. It was like, oh, we've sold this much to these markets and these types of customers. Well, and so what? What was the gross margin? What was, which product mix was it? Was it the right things? Was it the wrong things? Are we targeting it in the right areas? Are we, what are we going to be doing tomorrow with this? Where did we succeed today? Where did we fail? What are we changing? What do we need to focus on? None of that existed. And of course, part of introducing this new plan and this new structure was getting the people who are frontline selling each day to commit to 3 things that they were going to achieve that day. And it could be, moving a quote forward. It could be achieving a certain number of sales, or it could be securing a lapsed account, whatever it may be. But they had a commitment each day. And so part of the new report, the new daily report, formed what was going to be happening the next day. The report actually became an essential part of the structure of the activities of the frontline sales team every day, as opposed to just being a report that the executives get and go, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah. So then the other theme that I sort of picked up on in your story is right people, right seat. So
yes, absolutely.
Have you got the right people in the process doing the things that need to be done? Or have you got a process, a system, a structure in place that sort of quote unquote is a forcing function, puts some structure and expectation around it, but you've got people that are not very well suited to actually execute against that. And maybe they're great people at delivering different results in the business, but they might not be in the right seat. So when you're working on tying it back to content and branding, not everybody is a good content author. Not everybody is even a good project manager or even a good linear thinker. And sometimes somebody who's not a linear thinker is a wonderful content writer, but not a very good or not a terribly organized person, or somebody who's going to be able to even find it appropriate to follow the routine of those reports. So did any of that manifest itself in your scenario? Just having the right people, wrong seat, or wrong people?
Yes. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of that. I think, if we think about the content and the branding side of things, I think the business had fallen into the trap of focusing too much on marketing, but not really knowing what to do or how to do it. And that had taken the pulse off the actual day-to-day sales and the actual sales activity that need to happen, because it was more about, you had an organization of order takers as opposed to order makers. And that's of course part of why I think the sales team weren't performing, because they were going, we're getting orders coming in every day, it's fine, so they're just doing their admin, as it were, and then going out and seeing the odd companies that are familiar with them and comfortable to go and see. But there was no real strategy or structure or plan around that. And so coming back to your question about the right people, yes, to a large extent, we did have the right people in the right roles, but they had no structure and no direction and no clarity on understanding their own strengths that were then going to be used as a tool to essentially make sure that they are able to deliver and be the best version of themselves, to then identify the gaps that you can then get alternative people or additional roles, or give them tools, coaching, guidance, or education to help them to move on. Because there was no overview on any of that, it made it very difficult to identify those gaps and to do anything about it. But having put in the new structure, it puts everything out there in the spotlight straight away, from the very top management right the way down to, the sales coordinators, who were, again, also very lost. They're going, we're getting these reports every day. What are we supposed to do with it? So
there's a theme of leadership
that
comes up here too, that is appropriate for the objective of getting, a content plan and built. You can't just expect it to happen organically. I think it can happen organically, but you can't expect it to happen organically. So if it's happening organically for somebody who's listening today, you're lucky. And that balance and success that you're finding will not last.
Correct.
It's highly dependent on certain individual. I'm willing to bet it's highly dependent on people who are organized and self-motivated. You've definitely got the right people in the right seat if that is what's working for you. But organizational resilience and reliability and sustainability of the organization require that you extract the process out of that person and the structure that they're themselves following. I'll get, I promise, to sort of a creative exercise that provides some of the structure for a content plan, but definitely making sure that you have sort of leadership around this process, which just means clarity, organization, routine, and but also like direction and by that I mean sort of it's a goal set. It's a set goal, goal-oriented mindset. Wow, there you go.
Yes, yeah, there we go. Yeah.
I don't agree with the shock and awe approach. I can appreciate that it may be the last resort and perhaps where you are, but I generally find that more often than not that's a bit more of a creates a bit more of a toxic general.
It's a very, very jarring approach, and it is very much the last resort. The act first, adjust later is very, very hard to implement. It's very hard to ensure it succeeds, but it's also very important because it sends a very strong message to the organization.
Yeah.
Because you get that pushback, this isn't working, and then you go, why?
Right.
And you can do that because if you approach the organization, go, oh, what do we need to do? How do we need to do it? What do you think? That's not what they're looking for. They've had that for years, and that's the problem. They don't know what they're doing, and they don't know what they need, and they need someone to come in and give them that entire structure. And I mean, it's an organizational thing. It's not just me. Many people involved in the business, of course, involved in this. But pulling the rug from under people and going, right, what you've been doing isn't working. That's a fact.
Right.
We need to change that. We need to change that now in order to sustain your job.
Right.
We want to keep you in a job. We want to make sure that this company is still here next year, 5 years, 10 years from now. And in order to do that, we need to focus on sales, and we need to change that now, not tomorrow, now. Yeah. This is how we're going to do it. And it's hard to get that message out and to get that implemented. And it does take time because people, there's lots of people who resist change, and they'll definitely resist change when it's in that shock and awe approach.
Right.
But it sends a very, very powerful message that the business is serious. This is the way it's going to be. That's not for you. There's the door, because we can only work if it's going to work. And if you're not prepared to put that work in to make that happen and keep your job and keep the company that you're employed at alive, well, then is that really the right place for you?
I guess, yeah. I mean, it sounds like kind of a dramatic,
very dramatic,
situation, but maybe that's just the reality of where it was at. So the clock is running down here. So let me get to also sort of what I promised about sort of building that content plan. You kept referencing tools that are in place and that got put in place: CRM, spreadsheets. We use Asana for project management and task accountability. I think tools is a different episode, but you need that in the ecosystem. But let's use our own content plan for this podcast as the example. Andy, you and I have a spreadsheet going of our topics that we want to talk about for pretty much a 12-month runway.
Yes.
And I mean, recurring listeners know we sort of stick to different themes every month, but then we get into nuances and details of those themes. If you are stuck on building a content plan and you're not sure how you can possibly produce a unique piece of content weekly, if not daily, you need a 2-hour brainstorm, right? Like we built that
Yeah,
content plan in 2 hours.
we did.
And that's 52 things that we were able to come up with to talk about. And it's based on, in many of the cases for the businesses that we support on this, what are the questions that we're hearing from our customers? What are some of the frequent challenges that are happening internally with the staff? If you reflect on those 2 questions, put it on a whiteboard, just put the ideas down, group them by theme, and you'll start to some of those groupings will just start to aggregate. You break them down into a detail, you find some gaps, you put a little bit more time on where those areas are, and I guarantee you, if you do that in a 2-hour brainstorm, you can come up with 52 things to talk about over the course of a year. If you need more than that, add another quarterly 2-hour brainstorm to get
Exactly,
more
yeah.
depth or detail. It is that easy. Anything to add on that, Andy?
No, I completely agree. I think keeping it simple as we did, doesn't mean that it's ineffective or incomplete, because just taking that time to focus on what is it we want to talk about, why do we want to talk about it, what value is it bringing, that's it. Don't need more than that.
No.
Just start with that, and then you can add on that. You can fluff it out. You can make it bigger. You can make it more complicated if you wish, and you can turn that into daily or multi-day things. It doesn't matter, but to have the themes to guide you is that rope. I mean, we don't pre-write the content for it 12 months in advance, but we have the subjects, we have the topics, and then we go, right, okay, that's what we're focusing on. That's what we're going to talk about, and that's what we'll do. And we've done that consistently now for nearly 2 years, haven't we?
That's right. Amazing. All right, so let's recap. We've got make sure your reports are actually actionable and they're useful and they're timely. We've got right people, right seat. Make sure you got people that know how to do the job, interested in doing the job, in the right spot. It's about having the right kind of leadership in place and providing guidance and structure. And then, having tools is a necessary part of this so that you can maintain your accountability, and thinking about what your customers are saying, what your staff are faced with is a great way to come up with a 52-week content plan in 2 hours.
There we go.
Thanks, Andy, as always. And if you're listening and would like to know more or want to get in touch, all of our back episodes, as usual, are available at tandtimbits.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks, Andy. See you next time.
Thank you very much, Scott.